going on, everybody? Welcome back to Weekly Cheddar. Training camp's underway, Packers fans, and it is a very, very exciting time. Glad you are all here to join in. Gonna have a lot of good discussions tonight, I'm sure. Obviously, as always, Q&A, drop those. We'll get to every question that we can tonight. But yeah, I mean, there's camp, there's practice, albeit, not padded, but it's exciting, no doubt about it. We're going to hit some of, obviously, the key talking points. Obviously, feel free to drop your thoughts as well in the comments. The usual suspects showing up tonight. Jarrell Lee, what's going on? Says, go, Pack, go. Mark Zambito's here. Prince Capsaicin saying, howdy, how are you guys doing? So, yeah, I think... And Omer saying it's just too late in France for him to catch the show live. What's going on? Chris says this O-line is looking shaky, right? There's no doubt. And I think that's something that we're going to have to, pay attention to throughout camp. I think this was something where you kind of looked at everything and you go, yeah, well, Walker and Tom looked good last year. Jenkins, not his best year, but you feel still good about that. Right, Josh Myers, where's he at? And then, with everything, the Tom injury, right? He's coming back from the pectoral, right? They're giving other guys looks. Man, the interior doesn't look great, and the tackles are getting beat. Dillard, it looks rough out there for him. Which, what are you gonna do? Dillard was sort of a kick the tires type of signing, right? That was. Just, if you get something out of it, great. If not, no big deal. And that's already looking like what it is. It's the latter for sure. So, yeah, a little worried about the O-line, right? We'll see how Jordan Morgan fits into everything. If he can handle one of the guard spots, which they've given him, they're giving him looks at right guard. Sometimes no news is the best news on the Jordan Morgan front, right? You hear about tackles getting beat by the D linemen. If no news is good news on his front, that means he's at least, handling things decently well out there, which is good. But yeah, this O-line hopefully going to find something in terms of a solution on the interior. What's going on, Janelle? Good evening, Eric. Brian Maffey wants to talk 2025 draft. We'll get there for sure, especially on the pod. That's going to be coming up for sure very soon as well. Starting to get into things. So, Brian, you sit tight. I know you've got a lot of takes. We'll have to collab, get some takes off for sure. Eric Sutherland already saying Dillard's a bum. It just hasn't clicked with him. It hasn't clicked, and he was a dominant pass protector coming out of Washington State. And a lot of people are like, yeah, I mean, he's got all the air raid reps, which is fine, right? It's not a run game thing with him. It was more of like, okay, come in, be a ready-made pass protector. And then the Eagles take him, and he doesn't have to play right away, right, in that situation. So it gives him time to develop, and it never clicked there. Didn't really click Tennessee. It's just, it is what it is with Dillard. We'll see about that. Telfort was okay. Yeah, Kadeem Telfort maybe making a jump here above, Caleb Jones and Luke Tenuta. That's something to watch for sure. Eric Sutherland wants to do some mock draft time. We'll get there. I will say there will be one for all teams dropping next Monday. So if that's, scratching the draft itch, there you go. Packers Kingdom already throwing out some takes. K'Mon Rucker's really, really good. Yeah, he's a stud from North Carolina. Going to be talking about him a lot this coming season for sure once Derek Moore and J.J. Weaver for the front. To kind of mix things up. That could make the D-line very, very deep, no doubt. Janelle asks, did Telfort look better than Dillard? Yes. I think everybody would say that Telfort had a stronger showing. It's early, right? So that's something to watch for, but he did indeed look better than Dillard from all reports out there. Brian, obviously, this is a good point. Of course, the pads are coming on. We'll see what transpires once that gets underway. I believe it's Saturday, right? Not Friday now for the pads, which is fine. But yeah, I think that'll be really, really interesting to see how things go O-line, D-line wise once they get on. Brian said he'd been a Telfort fan for a while. Yeah, I mean, if Telfort's tackle 4 for this team, if you include, I guess, it just depends on what you're including. Will Jordan Morgan be a tackle in an emergency situation? He'll probably be the third, right? I think, if Telfort can be the fourth tackle, that's a good thing they have out there on the outside. It's really going to be about the interior, though. Can the interior offensive line figure things out? Jacob Monk, is he going to get looks, right? Sean Ryan, what's going to happen on the interior? That's going to be interesting. Eric Sutherland throwing out a hot take. Newman is better than Dillard. I mean, Newman's at least familiar, and Dillard's obviously, not shown anything so far. So we shall see on that. Oh, Derek Bell dropping by. Says check out Daniel Jackson, wide receiver from Minnesota. All right, I'm going to put him on that list. I'm going to put him on that receiver list because I do not have him. I don't know. Everybody's digging I think the Utah State receiver, who's really good. I like him a lot too. But yeah, I'm excited to dive into the receivers, especially for the 2025 NFL draft, just because that's the position I like, man, the most. It feels so detailed. And of course, Derek also talking about, yes, Royals is that guy. That's right. Royals is the receiver from Utah State, and just take care of Javon Bullard. We will over here. That's for sure. Man, Javon Bullard obviously started out with the ones opposite McKinney. Obviously, Evan Williams got looks today. I just feel like Bullard's going to be able to move around, right? And I don't think that's surprising to anyone regarding Javon Bullard, right? Really strong nickel player, really good, in deep looks, deep half. I think moving him around and being able to move him around is a good problem to have, especially if Williams can kind of, handle things on the back end as well. If you can have that versatility with a few guys, as we kind of talked about, versatility was a big part of what, the Packers looked for clearly in the safety position. So excited to see how that shakes out here for sure. Yeah, Morgan, the swing tackle, makes sense as tackle 3 going forward. That's a nice problem to have at tackle. It's really going to be about the interior offensive line. It really, really is. So Packers Kingdom saying because Wyatt contract is coming up, love to get good depth for the D-line. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, when you have a lot of guys on the defensive line, the Niners have done that. The Eagles had a big-time rotation, towards the end of the 2010s, early 2020s. So, yeah, having that's a good problem to have for sure. Who knows how long Preston's going to be around after this season. I know they've kind of, indicated that he'll be around for a while, but we'll see. Obviously, on that front, Rashawn Gary looking excellent. We love that. Prince Capsaicin saying surprised with Telfort's size. He has got looks inside at guard. Yeah, if he gets looks at guard, if he's playing well, we're going to have to keep eyes on him for sure. On the channel, might have to, take a look at, preseason reps of Telfort and maybe get them up on here just to take a look and see, how he's progressing. Because, yeah, him at guard, I think Donovan Jennings is somebody else you got to watch as a UDFA, right from South Florida. They met with him a bunch and obviously signed him as a UDFA. He's going to be obviously in that conversation as well, even over guys potentially that were drafted, right? So we'll see. I mean, I get it. Travis Glover was drafted. But he's got some heavy feet. There's a lot to clean up there in terms of if he's on the same plane as guys like Caleb Jones and Tenuta when they came into the league. So we'll see what happens with Glover. But that was definitely a project type of pick. So Telfort should have that inside track over a lot of these guys based on what he's done so far. Obviously, pads have to come on, but it's a good look so far for him. Dillard knew Jason Spriggs. Yeah, he kind of was. I mean, an elite tester. I think he was a better pass protector than Spriggs was, but man, yeah, Dillard just has not found it in the league. I did not have Jackson on my list, Brian. I did not. Eric Sutherland saying Bullard and Williams going to surprise some people. I know Jim Nagy talked up Evan Williams a lot. He talked him up as more of a single high. I feel like he's just more of a deep half, but he's really, really good at deep half. And, tackling, being around the line of scrimmage, there was so much of him that was like, talented in terms of his versatility and where he could be deployed. So I feel like the safety room looks really strong. And of course, not to mention, right, in the safety room, that Anthony Johnson Jr. getting a couple picks these last couple days. So that's great news there. You feel comfortable with the room if Anthony Johnson Jr. is kind of figuring things out a little bit, safety as well. You still have Oladapo in there. Like there's a lot going on. And there's obviously a lot of nickel experience there too. So, the safeties are looking good so far. 49ers charging fans $80 for watching camp. That's messed up. That is messed up for sure. Packers Kingdom says they love the wide receiver class. Yeah, Isaiah Bond. Yeah, Trey Harris had a big year. Yep. Juice Wells, Torrey Horton, Namika Ibuka. Yep, J. Michael Sturdivant. Isle Manor from Stanford. Matthew Golden. Yeah, there's a lot. Class is looking good. Probably won't have a bad wide receiver class ever again. So, weren't Telford and Jones playing together earlier in camp? That sounds right, Mark. I believe so. But man, if Telford can separate himself, that's a big deal. Because Green Bay's kind of been waiting a while for Jones and Tenuta to kind of make a move. And maybe Telford's just like, nah, I'm gonna make the move. I like that a lot for him and for the tackle depth. So, yeah, and if Jennings can quickly heal, that would be very, very helpful. Would love to see reps from him all summer long before things get going, just because you got to see something from all these offensive line guys that are kind of sitting on the bubble right now. So, yeah, I agree, Brian. Williams, definitely not somebody who I would use in a single high look. Just doesn't have that elite range. There really weren't a lot of guys in the class that had that elite single high range. I don't think Green Bay got either of them, to be honest. But that's okay. They've got their guy right now, in Xavier McKinney. So, Mark Zambita throwing to any wide receiver from Ohio State. Yeah, pretty much. Just draft him. Like Jeremiah Smith is an underclassman, and great things already on him. Sure, he's going to be talked about a year from now. So, especially in the draft circles. Yeah, Angelo Anthony, right? He was at Michigan, right, Brian, before Oklahoma. Has a very high yards per route run against man coverage. And with that speed, that matters. I'm really excited to see him. I'm really, really excited to see him this year. So, yeah, Kadeem Telford and Jones, when you got that kind of size, like they're putting a lot of beef on the offensive line. And hey, just saying, if Green Bay is going to take, some more steps potentially to look at more gap runs for this offense, doesn't hurt to have guys who can really move people out there rather than guys who are just better at flanking, right, with a lot more quicks and zone run. You have guys who can kind of push people around out there. Nothing wrong with that. Okay, yeah, he's a Michigan transfer. Good there. So obviously this is a big deal, right? We're still all quiet on the Jordan Love front. Yes, this is a movie reference. Had to do that. But yeah, I think as far as Jordan Love, I think it's still RELAX, right? No reason to panic just yet. Pads aren't even on. Who knows what they're haggling over? I think we kind of talked about it on Derailed a little bit, where it just could be a thing where it's a guaranteed money thing right now, and the Packers are kind of meeting what Jordan Love and the camp have kind of put out there in terms of APY. The problem is Green Bay maybe not doling out as much guaranteed money as Jordan and the camp would like. And so that probably feels like the biggest hang-up right now. I don't know if the length of the deal is another big hang-up. We'll see. I just feel like at some point, we're going to be, sitting down, here next Monday on Derailed, or next week on Weekly Cheddar, or listening to Clayton and the guys talk about it, where it's going to get figured out, just because it's got to. It's got to. Okay. We like Michael Pratt here. This is a Michael Pratt fan account over here. We like Michael Pratt. We got to temper the expectations, right? Like, this is him and Clifford. They're there to be spot starters to, come in relief if need be. This is not obviously a long-term thing, but yeah, I think it's a good battle to have for QB2, but we know that Jordan Love's the guy that needs to lead this team right now. Obviously, I've kind of talked a little bit about how it's kind of, would I pay him, top QB in the league money? Probably not, because I don't think he's the top QB in the league. But at some point, you're going to have to put that money up, and it's going to get passed anyway, right? Cap's still going up, and QBs are going to be searching for new deals, right? Some of these young guys will at some point. Stroud's going to get a deal at some point in a couple of years that will probably surpass what Love gets and what Lawrence just got and what Goff just got, right? That's going to happen. So at some point, it'll look fine. It's just not going to look fine right when you pay him. So Jordan Love front, not too much, not worried about that at all, but obviously had to bring it up because people were trolling earlier, right? Like Julian Love signs a deal. That was a lot of fun on Twitter. So yeah. Packers Kingdom dropping some tight ends that he likes as well. Don't forget about Benjamin Urosek at Georgia now. Don't forget about him at all. The D-line looks great. Yeah, Michigan's got 2 guys. Walter Nolan, everybody's picking up steam because Brugler kind of talked about him as well. Yeah, Deion Walker's the big dude from Kentucky. Mikael Williams. Yeah, it's going to be – the class looks really good. So I'm excited about that. Walker could be a beast if he dropped 20-ish pounds. Yeah, Walker's got the pad level thing. He's one of the few guys I've watched to this point. It's definitely a pad level thing. SDM40, what's going on, says, and as Andy Herman pointed out, the big guys struggle picking up stunts. Yeah, it's rare when you have really big guys who have fleet feet and can move. And that's why they're, some of the best to ever play. But short area quickness, pass protection, I think, is obviously where Green Bay has leaned towards in terms of offensive line. And that's important, right? When you have these longer developing plays, you're running, dagger where you're just running deeper and deeper dagger routes down the field. You have all this stuff. You want pass protection to be king because I think run blocking, is something where, as a unit, as a sum of its parts can be a lot better than maybe individual play. Whereas pass protection, you feel like you have to be good on your own and as a unit. And there's just, I think, a lot more value to that, obviously. Right. And so, pass protection is always just going to be where Green Bay has, at least for now, has put their money, put their resources to, and they should. So, yeah, short area quickness is going to be tough. That's why you get guys like Amarius Mims who have that insane short area quickness that go in the first round at 340 pounds because you just don't see it a whole lot. Doesn't always work, but, that's why big guys who are quick get picked early. I know Brian's on that Pratt for QB2 train. It's a big train. There's a lot of people on it. I don't know who the conductor is, but there's a lot of people on this train for sure. Walker looking better to start camp. Yes, there's a lot to like defensively. Wyatt's, when he can play aggressive, we know how good he can be. Linebacker's going to be the question because it wouldn't shock me if Isaiah McDuffie's out there starting week 1 just because I think they're going to like reliability a little bit more in terms of how he plays and where his instincts lie. Could Cooper pass up Walker for the other spot? Maybe. Wouldn't rule it out. I think Walker has been really close at times, especially in terms of coverage instincts and what he can do in space. Just don't think the green dot potential is there just yet. So, I think linebacker is the position that defensively I think everybody's got their eyes on. Just because it feels like something needs to happen a little bit more. I think obviously corner 2, right, the Stokes-Valentine battle, I feel like that's going to sort itself out, which is nice. But linebacker's just one where they got to find something. Something. And that's just, I feel like that's going to be a lot of preseason, where you're kind of like, all right, let's see how the linebackers fare, right? Even Hopper is the rook, right? Like 2 rooks in there. And you've got guys who, kind of need to step up. So I'm be really excited to see how that goes down. Even in the the combined practices, right? Which there aren't many, but when you have that opportunity, it's great to see guys showing out there. Yeah, Jalen Walker, Smail Mountain Jr., who got in trouble a little bit. Jeffrey Bass. Yeah, there's Packers Kingdom already on it with the names for sure. Brian dropping in that Nolan's overrated. Mark doing some service here, 20 minutes in, saying don't forget to hit that like button. I appreciate anybody who would do that. Of course, you guys are awesome. If you already have done it, feel free to do that. I don't like to talk about it this early, but Mark dropping the comment, appreciate you, man. Just because it helps for sure. I know Brian's been on that Michael Pratt train for a while. Yeah, I'm surprised. Yeah, I mean, Pratt's 2022 was really good. There's no doubt. And see him go in the 7th round was very puzzling. Jabbar Muhammad going from Washington to Oregon. Yep. Yeah, Arizona, Takario Davis. Don't forget about Ephesians Prysock either from Arizona. But yes, there's a lot. There's the draft is draft talk's gonna be ramping up over here for sure. So yeah, the Jordan Love front, obviously Kenny Clark extension, right? That was something that's popped up now that we kind of didn't get to talk about because just waiting on it last week. So, I think getting what he got. I mean, Goody called him a pros pro, which is great. I think that he's been solid, he's been steady, and he's available, which is a big deal, right, for Clark. So, he right, I think so. He's from what I can see on the deal, I'm going to go to over the cap here quick. But the Clark deal makes sense, right? I think when you look at how the defensive line looks right now, right, I think you kind of go, okay, Wyatt hasn't quite shown it yet. You have TJ Slayton in a contract year, right? I think you're looking for we've talked about this, we're looking for the Carl Brooks breakout, right? I think so. And when it comes to Clark, I think he still becomes a free agent after 2027, which he'd be 32, but they front loaded a lot of the money. Is he making 27? He's counting 27.49 against the cap in 2024, right? As at 29 years old, and then the numbers go significantly down. At least in terms of what he counts against the cap, just about 5 million and a half the next 3 years. So it feels like a front-loaded deal, at least from what I saw. 3 void years that could have accelerated, 13 million-ish cap hit. Yeah. So I mean, it's front-loaded. It's a lot of, it's the AAV is 21.3, but he's not going to get that much, right? But that 29 million in 2024 kind of takes a lot of it and says, okay, we're front loading it. We trust in this final year a little bit of this original deal that we gave you, and then we'll see once you hit 30, right? It's a very Packers type of deal where, and I think Chris dropping $2. Thanks, Chris, appreciate you. Says, wasn't Kenny a bit overpaid? I think if you look at AAV, yes, I think it's very fair to say that Clark hasn't been elite, right? The past couple of years, of course. So when you look at that, you go, okay, yeah, 21 million a year for that. However, if you get a bounce back year from Clark this year, he's counting a lot against the cap this year. And once he hits 30, right, you're seeing this kind of, drop off in terms of the money he will make to finish the deal. So it's not going to get to a point where the cap number, at least from what I can tell already, is absolutely outrageous to the point where you feel like you're in a Bakhtiari situation. Seems like Green Bay's doing the right thing here. It's like, okay, they're doing kind of the like, okay, Kenny, you've been really good for us for so long. You've been a steady player. Let's give you something, let's give you this year. And, if he sticks around, there could be a lot more incentives, kind of baked into the next 3 years to where if he's playing well and continuing to play well into his 30s, then you have it to the point where it looks really good. So it's going to look like a big number this year. And if he doesn't show out this year, then you're going to start to have conversations once he gets into his 30s. So at least from what I can tell, it looks nicely front-loaded to the point where, you get a good year out of him. Okay, excellent, great. He's sticking around. If you get a bad year out of him, you're like, okay, well, we gave him this money in 2024. See if he could, back it up and get back to where he's played before. But if not, we'll make it a little more friendly on this back end for us. So I think based on recent play, yes, if he gets back to peak play, it's not going to look like an overpay there. So they gave him a lot of money, of course, up front, but we'll see. We'll see. I didn't think they were going to do it. It felt like, the it felt more likely once they didn't draft somebody, right? They didn't draft Jason Newton. They didn't go up to get Byron Murphy. They didn't grab somebody, like Chris Jenkins. They were like, all right, we're good with what we have. Then it started to feel like, okay, the Kenny Clark extension might happen. So, yeah, I mean, it's kind of a yes and no thing. It's not a super black and white question in terms of the overpay. A lot of it's just going to be like, yeah, if he doesn't have it this year, he doesn't have it, So, Prince Capsaicin saying, I like to tell my Viking fan friends Pratt compares favorably to McCarthy. They do not like that. Yeah, I'm sure they don't, considering one went in the 7th and one went 10th. So, yeah, I mean, I think Doug Farrar from USA Today kind of was like, yeah, Pratt and McCarthy are very similar players, which was great to see. A tweet from a guy who's been in the draft space for a long time. Packers Kingdom and Brian are throwing out some impressive names. Maxwell Harrison from Kentucky. We're talking about Kelvin Banks and all this, and Emory Jones and Tyler Booker. So many guys. Good evening, Mike Berry. How you doing? Mark Zambito says we need Zach at right tackle more than ever. Yeah, I mean, Zach Tom. I mean, classic example of it's just hard to say whether or not you're like, yeah, Zach Tom's going to be a really good example of guys going, yeah, you can flip him to right tackle. What's wrong with that? Like having played left tackle in his career and just go, yeah, you can flip him to the right side, no problem. When in reality, it's a case-by-case basis. David Bakhtiari has long talked about he could never flip to the right side. Maybe it was Bakhtiari, but somebody said it's like wiping with the other hand, which I think is a very funny way of putting it, of course. But yeah, some guys can flip to that side. Some guys can't flip. And it is what it is. Tristan Wirfs, good example of a guy who can flip to both sides, played on both sides at Iowa. So that kind of eases the concern. But with Zach Tom, it was just kind of an unknown. And he's really locked into being a really, really good right tackle. There's no need to move him unless you have versatility elsewhere. So he should be locked in there. And for his extension, he should be asking for tackle money. There's no doubt about it. So I think he will rightfully earn his contract there. So yeah, we're talking about the tackles. Banks could end up at guard from Texas. I know I said good evening to Mike Berry already, but I want to make sure if he's listening or just hanging in the background. Brian saying that Campbell is OT1 for him. Abdul Carter, yes. Yes, he is very, very talented. Packers Kingdom saying, I love our new DC. I don't care if we're going defense first round. I mean, they've done a really nice job of, finding players in the mid rounds who can contribute on offense. They've done a really tremendous job. If the process isn't broken, I mean, I think you could argue the Georgia defenders haven't been the best. Savage obviously doesn't stick around very long after his first deal. So, but the hit rate, it is what it is. It's still a lottery. And I think they're still doing really, really good things when they're drafting defense early. Packers would have to, yeah, for sure. That's a definite. Abdul Cardi's probably going way before the Packers pick if everything goes correct this year. Andrew Mukuba from Texas. Yeah, safety, slot. I think he's done a lot of different things, which is really, really good. He's exciting. Mark Zampito saying biggest needs next year, corner, defensive tackle, O-line, and defensive end. See, I would tend to throw running back in there as well, potentially. Just because I think you got to pay attention to it. O-line and D-line are obviously going to always be there. And yeah, I think corner is a really good one as well. Defensive end will be interesting. If Enagbare plays well and Preston's sticking around, you've got four guys. And Brenton Cox is obviously the fifth guy right now. We'll see how that goes. DT is definitely one, and I think Green Bay is in a good position to capitalize on that defensive tackle class, which is exciting. But yeah, I think that's a good list. I would throw running back on there just because I'm a little uncertain about the fumbling and can Josh Jacobs get back to where he has been. Doug is definitely the man. Packers King asking Nick Scourton or Patrick Payton. I'm on the Scourton train as well. Marvin Jones Jr. or Trey Moore. Not sure on that one. JJ Weaver's a goot pick. Packers Kingdom's on this, man. That's good stuff. Jimmy Walker talking about Josh Sitton. I don't know what this is in reference to, Jimmy, but I think having someone like that right now on the offensive line would be very, very helpful on the interior where we need it. So, yeah, running back is a good class. It should be super deep. Jonty and Gordon, of course. I still like Judkins. I think the footwork, anticipatory, reactive skills are really great. But, yeah, I mean, defensive line-wise, right, you're looking at UDFAs for Slayton next year, Enigbari 2 years from now, Brenton Cox will be 2 years from now if he sticks around. Wyatt has a fifth-year option in 2026 to pick up, which would have to be done next offseason. So, yeah, D-line's still got some potential there for being a need, both defensive end and defensive tackle. So, yeah. Devin Neal, great player. Prince Capsaicin saying we didn't get to see what kind of D-line they will look for to fit the new system. Like we did with linebacker and safety, may get a hint by how they approach Slayton. Yeah. If Slayton doesn't get a lot of reps this year, I think it's a very, very clear look at like maybe they just won't go that big anymore. That doesn't mean they won't, find somebody who can do one-tech stuff. But it just might be a more athletic, version of a one-tech. So I think it'll be interesting to see, if it's, we're seeing a lot of one-gapping from guys. Are they going to be able to have a guy who can sit and kind of be in that kind of two-shade one tech, or are they just going to keep guys kind of wider? That'll be interesting to watch for sure because as you mentioned, Prince, like TJ Slayton, UDFA, how many reps is he going to get on a per game basis this year? And obviously Jonathan Ford, there isn't a lot of news on that front. So defensive tackle seems like a need unless we're getting super breakouts from guys, which we could. Carl Brooks, never know. Okay. So yeah, early camp thoughts. Obviously, we've still got Q&A rolling. But yeah, I had a few early camp thoughts, right? I think, we kind of mentioned it already. The Stokes-Valentine competition is going to be really, really interesting. Stokes obviously has some interceptions already, a pass breakup. Valentine's looked feisty. He's put weight on. He's above 200 now, up from like 184. So, that's going to be a really fun competition to watch for corner 2. And again, it's a lot about the safety position where, you got Anthony Johnson Jr. Is he going to, be locked in a little bit more at safety? Are they going to give him slot looks? Buller's probably going to do both. Is Evan Williams going to do both? Is Oladapo going to be in there? A lot of linebacker, perhaps, in some looks. Just very interested to see how this DB room rounds out, but it's looking a lot better. Safety feels a lot more comfy than it did a few months ago. Imagine that. So I'm really excited to see who flanks Xavier McKinney week 1. I'm sure we're not going to get that answer very soon. It also could depend on opponent too, right? Especially if Hafley feels very comfortable with both Bullard and Williams on the back end playing with McKinney, that they go, okay, we got a slot receiver who's a really, really good player. We need to feel comfortable, with somebody who can handle those duties there in the slot. Then it's like, well, we might need to play Bullard there this week. All right. And maybe Nixon doesn't get the start there. So I can't wait to see how the safety room rolls out. We kind of talked about the O-line troubles already. I think that's kind of an early headline from camp for sure, where it's just, okay, are we going to be able to see something from these guys on the interior? Is Jacob Monk going to get some center looks as well? Like, can Sean Ryan find something, unlock something? It's going to be fun to see. I think it would have been nice to have found a way in the draft to grab another offensive lineman somewhere. Just because it would have been nice to find somebody who's not necessarily a project, Let me see here. I'm going to bring this up here. Let's present. Let's share screen. Just because I would love to kind of take a peek at all this, where you look at where Green Bay picked and O-line picks that were around it. Obviously, this is a big one right here. Is JPJ right at 44, where it's just kind of like, yeah, it could have been nice to have JPJ in there. Obviously, Green Bay traded back from 41 and picked up Edgerrin Cooper. Obviously, there's a lot of talk about DeJean, about McKinstry still being available, right? All the DBs that went before this pick. But JPJ, that could have been a Jordan Morgan JPJ start would have been absolutely insane. Would have definitely been a fun duo to track, right? And I think a little bit less, but you look at, again, Blake Fisher still on the board when Green Bay took Bullard. You look at Rosengarten, you look at Suamataia. It is what it is, but again, a few guys there that I think were kind of more Goody fits. And obviously, again, it's a lot of, we have higher grades on Bullard and Cooper than a lot of these guys. But it's just going to be interesting to follow the careers of these guys. I know that, Goody isn't going to be into somebody like JPJ. I think that was, pretty clear based on the trends. However, it would have been, kind of fun to see if Green Bay had just, we're gonna really double down early at offensive line. Because I think, you look at some of these guys, Amagaji, I know, Brian and I were big on Delmar Glaze. Very surprised he went 77th. But yeah, Zinter and Pooney, this one hurts so much, being 2 picks ahead. And we talked about that a lot, where it just felt the versatility was perfect, and it felt like Green Bay was going that direction if he was there. So that stunk. But yeah, they kind of went a little off book, and we'll see how that pans out. But yeah, I know McCormick is somebody a lot of people really, really liked. Really quick, Brian talking about Goody sticking to the type of D-line he takes. Yeah, 315 seems, right on cue, where it could be still a guy who can play some 1 and some 3 tech for sure. Yeah, Packers Kingdom still throwing out some names. Of course, Joseph says, I'm interested to see Wyatt on the D-line in this system. Yeah, I think he'll be able to kind of attack more for sure. Yeah, compensatory picks will be definitely. It'll be an interesting year for that, because I don't even know if they might not get anything for Slayton. So could be one of those kind of strange years where they don't have it. Yeah, QB class has a lot of questions. Joseph talking about Bullard and Williams play a similar amount of time. That would be great for sure. Goot said he will draft a QB every year like back in the day, as he should, as everyone really should be doing. And yeah, O-line, biggest question. Joseph talking about Sawani McCormick. Yeah, it would be nice to have just a true interior player out there. Green Bay just loves their tackle experience usually. So it is what it is. We can harp on who they should have picked, who they shouldn't have. Still got to play it out and see how the chips fall. So I was hoping McCormick was going to be the pick at 91. Yeah, it would have been nice. I still, again, contest Pooney was going to be the guy until San Francisco traded up. So Ian saying, I'd be curious if Love is trying to get less years, no franchise tag in negotiations. That's the holdup. Yeah, I think, years could definitely be a part of this. There's no doubt, Ian. Hope you're doing well, of course. But yeah, I think it's just, Love and company probably want another crack at things when he's, late 20s or around 30 years old, where it's like, all right, hit me up with another big deal. Green Bay maybe going one a little bit longer. Yeah, there could be a lot of things going on. I just feel like it's very much a guaranteed money thing at this point. Yeah, another Arizona guy, Jonas Sava-Iainea or something like that. But I would draft Starks. He's better. Malachi Starks is awesome. There's no doubt. Want to draft a wide receiver next season, perhaps. Second and third rounds. Coach Hewlin in here. What's going on? The second and third rounds were definitely stacked. This was a class that it felt really good to have a lot of picks in there. Again, do we love the idea of getting, Hopper at 91? Maybe not as much, but yeah, there's so much talent stacked in here. O-line, DBs, a few running backs in there. I think you could contest that were were solid picks. The receivers kind of fell into some good spots. So yeah, day 2 was really loaded across the board. Yeah. Yeah, this is true. Like Abdul Carter, Malachi Starks probably not going to be a Packer. Yeah, Prince Capsaicin dropping, I think, what a lot of us thought as well. Yeah, we're just like, if early double dip at linebacker was pretty shocking, considering that it was just like, yeah, there's a few linebackers that are worth day 2 picks, and then the rest are probably worth day 3 picks. And Green Bay just said, yeah, let's grab Tyron Hopper. So it was a very, very surprising. Yeah, McCormick at 91. Yeah, Niners getting Pooney really hurt. That one hurt almost as much as the Dunze going to the Bears. But if they did more gap stuff, I think, of course, he could have fit there. But I think Pooney was still good enough in terms of zone blocking. So you're still probably going to get a mix of that this year in the run game. But it obviously would be fun to have guys who can kind of push people around in that regard. But I do think Pooney was still a tremendous athlete to play guard or tackle. So I do, yeah, that one hurt a lot. Michael Redden, what's going on, says, this is the team I envisioned for 2022. Instead of re-signing Rodgers, we didn't have all the pieces yet. Yeah, didn't have all the power rushers, didn't have your Van Nesses, your Wyatts necessarily at full strength, Carl Brooks, all this. The play action deep shots are going to be there for sure. And yeah, the defense is going to start to attack. I know Clayton said this either yesterday or the day before, where it's like, this defense isn't going to, or someone made a comment on the show that was like, yeah, this defense isn't going to be a wait until you make a mistake. It's going to make you make a mistake, which I think is really exciting. Yeah, Packers will still have zone blocking for sure. Again, that's what Josh Myers fits in really well, but they've thrown in some wrinkles. Wouldn't be shocked to see them throw in some wrinkles with, Lloyd being able to attack really quickly and accelerate really quickly, and for Josh Jacobs as well. Joseph Gleason, what's going on, says, do you see Oladapo as a good tight end cover guy? Absolutely. I think the size, the athleticism, the disruption ability is all there for sure. Brian obviously dropping in a yes as well. Yeah, the triple dip at safety, especially those 3 that they got. I think a lot of people were on Oladapo by the time the draft rolled around. There were a lot of Bullard fans, and Evan Williams just kind of sat there and was like, yeah, I can do a lot of things. I'm pretty well rounded, and they got 3 guys that are really liked at safety. And yeah, I think it's going to be huge for sure, just because of the versatility combined with all the talent that they have. Yeah, I don't mind the double dip at linebacker. I just felt like there were better options, right? Not to harp on the draft too much. Obviously, we're rolling on training camp, but we talked a lot about it. Cedric Gray still being available in that spot, of course. There was a couple others, not necessarily Jordan McGee, and Bertrand was athletic, obviously Eichenberg, but I do think not even Trotter for me. Ulafosio perhaps, but it was more like here, Jalen Ford in the 5th, somebody I really liked. Darius Moisau from UCLA was somebody I liked a lot later as well. Everybody liked Boogie Watson as kind of an off-coverage type of linebacker as well. So there were some guys later. But, you go get your guy when you go get your guy. So that's what Green Bay did. Yeah, this is the worry about comp picks. 2025. Yeah, Stokes maybe is the one that you could get something for, maybe Myers, but man, it's not looking great. It's not looking great. But I do think, 2026. Right. Yeah, 25 not looking good. 26 looks probably a little bit better. Yeah, I feel like they're not going to have a whole lot. So it could be back to kind of, we don't have stuff from the Adams and Rodgers trades anymore in this draft, where it's kind of like, all right, well, this is kind of, we've enjoyed the plethora of picks. We're going to have to, kind of manufacture it again in 2025 and trade back if you want a lot of picks then. So, yeah, 49ers getting Mustafa was tough. Niners did well. I liked what the Niners did, right? Because they took Pearsall, which I think was fine. Pearsall's a guy who can get open, reliability for Purdy. That's fine. Then they got Renardo Green, who's feisty. Then they went up and got Pooney. It hurts to keep going back to that, but they did. And I think they took Mustafa in the 4th, right? Yeah, they did. Took Garendo, which you talk about a fit. Yeah, Garendo. Cowing's a good player too. The receiver depth is good. Dang, these Niners, man. This is annoying. It's annoying when they do this. Obviously, we'll see, though, right? No guarantees, but I did like what the Niners did for sure. Yeah, I don't know if Mustafa's as versatile as the others. That's really maybe the question you would have with Mustafa versus the other 3. But, I think it's still something where, not looking as much at fit and just kind of being like, yeah, I really like this player. So can we draft Juice Wells and use him like Debo? Why not use Jaden Reed like Debo? I know he's not, two bills and change, but Jaden Reed's got versatility to use in this offense. So I wouldn't be shocked if he gets more touches like that. Joseph Gleason says, does this scheme encourage middle linebackers to attack and shoot gaps along with the D-line, or do you think it'd be a harder scheme on the middle linebackers? I mean, I think middle linebackers is a tough position. You're in a tough position, especially with a lot of offenses that are built to put linebackers in conflict, to throw a lot of eye candy at them, right? Like that's what offenses are built to do right now, right? You look at the Miami Dolphins, and it's just kind of like, man, they're putting you in a impossible position at linebacker, right? To the point where, man, it's just like, you have to be available at the second level for guys like Achane and Mostert and now Jalen Wright at running back, but also you cannot get, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle digs thrown behind you because you're never going to catch up to them. And then they're in the open field in the secondary. It creates a lot of problems in that offense. The Lions kind of have it as well, right? They've got Jahmyr Gibbs, who's just a threat out there. Jameson, they've got 2 guys who can roam the middle and just attack there in St. Brown and Laporta. Obviously, the Niners have built it, right? They've got McCaffrey. They've now added Garendo. They've added speed. But they've got a lot of receiver talent that they can move around, and they can go positionless. So, yeah, it's tough. Playing a linebacker is just hard to do in this day and age. You just don't have a lot of Fred Warner, Roquan Smith types just hanging around out there. So, it's, I think the middle linebackers are going to be encouraged to attack. I think there are going to be times where some of the D tackles are one gapping, and they're going to be responsible for one in there, and they're going to have to attack and make a play. But they're obviously going to have enough range to get back for play action to make sure that they can, run that kind of, I forget what the technique is called now that I'm thinking of, where you kind of have to turn around and just get to the spot with guys rolling in on concepts behind you, but you have to be able to be athletic and smart playing the position, period. It's just going to be more difficult when you're a linebacker who has to play more within a confined space, where it's just like you can't just be a run defender out there anymore. You can't. And so they're going to have to attack, but they're going to have to play well in coverage as well. It's going to be difficult on them. Playing linebacker is just strenuous. So to answer your question, yeah, I think they will encourage them, but it's going to be difficult on them. They're young players. They got a lot on their plate, and that's why I think, truthfully, put the green dot on Xavier McKinney. You don't have to give one of these guys, these young guys, who I would like to see them play more free and less hesitant. Don't give them the green dot. Don't give them all that extra stuff that they have to handle, right? Give McKinney it. He knows what he's doing out there. He's a veteran. He's a extremely good, really potentially elite safety. So that's what I think about that. It's going to be difficult on linebackers. Prince kept saying he feels like a pauper with 7 picks. Yeah, it's going to be different next year, especially when the draft's in Green Bay. It's going to be like, man, I wish we had more picks. Could use Bo Melton like Debo. He's a little bit smaller, but he does carry weight pretty well. I still feel like Reed's going to become that guy. Wells at confirmed 215. I mean, that might as well start throwing the comps out already, right? That Juice Wells is Debo. So, I'm sure we'll see that eventually. Goody started retooling in 2019, says Michael Wren, but got delayed. With better run blocking and Love able to avoid pressure throw off platform. Yeah, I mean, I think, again, we kind of talked about what run blocking is going to be. It's like a very sum of its parts thing where if you have a unit that's solid and they can kind of do all the stuff in terms of, just putting together, average to above average play, you're going to get good stuff out of the running game where it's like pass protection. You just, it's got to do a lot of things. You have to have your own assignment, be available for other assignments, look for work. There's just, that's why Green Bay has pushed more towards the table in terms of that. So I need Quay to be Fred and Cooper to be Greenlaw. Campanile will get his linebackers right. I would flip that probably and say that Cooper is going to be Fred and Quay is going to be Greenlaw. But yeah, I'm excited to see how Anthony Campanile gets the linebackers going. I still think McDuffie's probably going to get a lot of looks early on. It's because it's a young room. And he feels like, he brings some reliability. So Bo played running back. Could be a change of pace guy coming out of the backfield. I think Reed could do the same thing. I really do. I think if they're struggling at running back this year and Jacobs doesn't find it and Lloyd is fumbling, like they have to be willing to kind of go outside the box a little bit, which is exciting, which is kind of exciting to think about. Packers came talking about Madden. Packers playbook's going to be his. Coach Hewlin saying, yeah, X gets the green dot for sure. He has to, right? Like it's just, he's got to. It's got to be his. He's going to be the guy that is going to be, just on top of everything. Like you need to be in this spot. You need to be in this spot. Oh, I see this. So do you see this, coach? You're relaying it in. Like that would be nice. It would be nice. Can we use Lloyd like CMC? Maybe. I think he's probably a better pass catcher, and has enough twitch, change of direction to really develop a route tree out of the backfield that could be extremely dynamic for this offense. I know a lot of Ray Rice comps have been thrown out for Lloyd. I'm trying to think of one that really comes to mind. It's hard to mimic that type of burst with that much muscle and that much like densely packed human, right? Like being 5'8" or whatever and 220. Like you just have that kind of, explosive burst is insane. So, he's got, a lot in his game that's really, really good. As long as Lloyd cleans up the fumbling, he's going to be a good player. But it's a huge deal to clean that up. It really, really is. So Jacob's not going to be CMC. No, I don't think he will. I think he's shown what he can be at his best, which is, plenty of twitch still at running back, but plenty of power. He's got the game-breaking ability. He's just, again, the holdout, maybe that kind of spilled into the year and just he wasn't quite ready to roll, and the offensive line wasn't as good. A lot of variables go into that. There were still obviously times where it was Jacob's fault on runs, but there were also times where, the offense was just not clicking at all. So I like that Green Bay has committed to the idea of getting just bigs, right? So it's, Emmanuel Wilson's a big guy. Dylan's obviously big. And you get two guys who are in the 216 to 220 range, and it's just like, yeah, we're going to be bigger at running back. So who that had 7 yards per carry out of college? I think Jalen Wright did, if I'm correct. Believe he did. There have obviously been some others for sure. Don't have it on me, but I would love to know. Something we'll be obviously looking at next winter before the draft. Coach Hewlin saying Lloyd reminds him of Maurice Jones-Drew. I think there's some D'Angelo Williams in there as well. Coach, I don't know what you think about that. But he's definitely the Lloyd being Jones-Drew kind of being, the bigger guy, but a little bit shorter. That build sort of makes sense. I think he's got the more acceleration like D'Angelo. But yeah, I get the size comp makes sense with Jones-Drew. Smaller guy, low center of gravity, has a lot of bulk to him. Forget about my boy Emmanuel Wilson. Would never. The more comfortable he gets, I think, that's going to be really exciting for the offense. If you see kind of like a little bit extra from him, I think that's what the running back room is kind of hinging on. Everybody kind of needs to do one thing. And for Wilson, it's stepping up. For Lloyd, it's not fumbling. For Jacobs, it's getting back to form, right? So there's a question for each running back. Manuel Wilson's probably the most intriguing in terms of taking a potential step forward. All right, you like the D'Angelo. I feel like someone threw that out. And the more you look at it, the more you're like, yeah. I mean, that's that kind of burst in that type of body. Like, it makes sense, I think. Lloyd had 7 per. Okay. Makes sense. Yeah, Juice Wells is, I mean, that's where we're probably going to get Debo comps. So, I mean, I think that's kind of what we had on the early thoughts for camp. We kind of talked about DBs, O-line, D-line. It's going to be really good when the pads get back on. Maybe we'll have another show this weekend once that happens, maybe Saturday or Sunday. Then it can't be weekly Cheddar anymore, so we're gonna have to workshop that perhaps. But yeah, it was good. I wanted to keep this one to an hour. I feel like it does better when it goes to an hour. Obviously, during the draft, we're gonna have a lot more to talk about on this show, of course, and during the season. So there could be some longer shows. But if that's kind of all for tonight, we may just call it a little under an hour. Make sure if you haven't hit that like button to do so. That really, really helps. Obviously, subscribe if you're new here, but I think we have kind of most of the regulars in tonight that it was great to see. Obviously, Omer dropped in early and said he won't be available. I'm sure we'll get a lot of his thoughts on the rewatch later. I know Jarrell Lee, Mark Zambito, Prince Capsace, and Chris, Janelle, Eric Sutherland, Brian Maffey, obviously Packers Kingdom. I know Derek Bell dropped in to say hello, which was awesome as well. Coach Hewlin dropping in for sure. SDM40 came in to say hello. And obviously, thank you to Chris, of course, again, for dropping that $2. Really appreciate that. Mike Berry said hello, of course. Jimmy Walker was in here. Who else was in here? Joseph, of course. Ian. Yeah, we kind of Michael Redden, Joseph, Gleason. We kind of had a nice little full house of the regulars back in tonight, which was super, super fun. Clayton dropping by to say hello. Appreciate you. Great show as well to you, Clayton. Excited to see you. Hopefully, you guys at some point breaking down a Jordan Love deal, because can't wait to check that out. But at the very least, we're going to have a video this week. We'll see how much time I have tonight. But there might be a little something in terms of video content. We're going to get that back and rolling here very, very soon for you guys. A lot of rookie film to look at, which I know you guys are excited about. So we're going to get to that. And, might throw a couple more draft pick film rooms because I didn't do all of them. But I've got some thoughts on all of them for sure. So, yeah, stick around. There's going to be a lot more going on the channel as we ramp up into football season. So I hope you guys stick around for all of it. I know it's not going to all be Packers related, but hopefully you get something out of them, even if they are not. So thank you guys. Thanks, Joe. Packers Kingdom, one more last thought from him talking about, Matt not going to use the running backs. Let's pass the game. Yeah, it's going to be a committee for sure. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Prince. Of course. Good night, everybody. Hope you enjoy. Jimmy Walker, what's going on? First time. Okay. I thought it was. That's good to know. Glad you enjoyed it. Hope you get to stick around for a lot more that we got going on the channel. Yeah, again, thank you all, of course. And we'll at the very least catch you live next week with the pads on, and I'm sure we'll have a lot more thoughts. Everybody can drop their questions, of course. We love the Q&A stuff in here. So thank you guys so much, and take care. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday evening. Enjoy the rest of your week. And it's just exciting to have